Hello YouTubers, and welcome back once again to the Man Cave with me, Joey Jigsaw Boy, and today I'm going to be taking you lot through cleaning and lubricating your motorcycle chain. So if your chain's in need of some TLC, please stick around and stay tuned. So when it comes to cleaning and lubricating your chain, most manufacturers recommend no more than 400 miles. What I would say though, if you ride your motorcycle in all weathers, i.e. in the winter when there's loads of salt on the road, and if you commute daily, you're going to be doing that through all kinds of weather. Presumably it's going to be wet. If you're riding through the rain, also you need to bear in mind that that lubrication that's on your chain is going to get washed off. So that 400 mile that's recommended off the manufacturer, you might need to reduce that to every 100 mile or so, depending on the weather. Okay. So when it comes to cleaning your chain ready for lubrication, okay, there's lots of different things on the market. There's quite a wide variety of chain degreasers specific for motorcycle chains to be had now, whereas years ago when I first started riding, there wasn't. So what we used to do back then was, according to the manufacturer's instructions, or for my particular bike anyway, okay, it's okay to use diesel or kerosene. Personally, I wouldn't use diesel because I think that's a bit too messy. But what I did years ago, I found a hardware store and I paid for 1 litre of kerosene. Then I got myself some spray bottles, picked them up for, you know, probably £1 from Home Bargains or something, and put the kerosene in there, and it's lasted me for donkey's years. Eventually when this does run out, then I will probably try some of the other stuff that's on the market, but it seems a bit pointless to spend on them when I've still got this kerosene going, because it absolutely lasts for donkey's years. So according to my service manual, you can use diesel, but I wouldn't personally recommend it. So get yourself some kerosene, put it in a bottle, and you're good to go. There are some other products on the market. WD-40, as I've already said, do one, and you'll probably find that most manufacturers that do motorcycle lubricants will probably do some form of chain cleaner as well. When it comes to brushes, okay, all I've used is, I've got a little soft wire brush, okay, and it needs to be a soft wire brush, because you don't want it to damage them O-rings or the X-rings, whatever's on your chain, which I've spoken about. Before I started using this, all I used to use was a toothbrush. Okay, does the job, nice and soft, costs you what, 70p, okay, and you know it's not going to damage your O-rings or your X-rings. I bought this little contraption the other day. This has just come from a well-known internet site. I paid £3.90 for this with free delivery. So it's got 3 sides, so you can get around the back of the chain, and it's also got some long bristles just to help get some stones, etc., out of in between the plates. So that's it for the cleaning. So moving on from cleaning the chain, we'll now move on to lubricating the chain. So according to my manufacturer's booklet, you can use a heavy oil. That's what is recommended as per their manual. So as long as it's SAE 90 or more, so that it's quite a heavy oil, you know, that's what they recommend. However, being oil, it can fling off your chain. You don't want that flinging off onto your tires. You can use it, but I personally wouldn't recommend it. So there's plenty of chain lubes on the market. So as your biking career progresses, you will probably chop and change lubricants all the time. So the one I'm using now is this one from Motul. It's got some good reviews. Don't know if you can see on there, it's compatible with O-ring and X-ring. So I know when I put this on my chain, it's not going to eat them little rubber seals. what I plan to do is I plan to do another video on how to adjust your chain. So for this one, we'll just purely concentrate on cleaning and lubricating. So that's the one that I recommend. There's been a debate going on again. We'll go back to WD-40 because that's like the household favorite, you know, and people keep asking, is that good enough to lubricate my chain? And the answer is, it will probably stop your chain from rusting, and it probably will stop it from seizing, but it's not really compatible with the O-rings. Some people might say different. No one can really get a definitive answer, so I wouldn't recommend that you use that as a lubricant. Get yourself some heavy oil, like a gear oil, SA 90 or above, or just get yourself some proper made grease. So they all tend to have they all tend to claim that they've got anti-fling properties. So what you've got to imagine is that your chain's going around really quick. This stuff is going to want to fly off onto your back wheel and onto your tire. Okay, so some of them do a better job than others, but that's something that you'll figure out yourself as your riding career progresses. So this is what I'm on at the minute, Motul. Right, so we've got everything laid out, got my newspaper down, got my drip tray in place, just to help catch all the old gunk that's going to come off the chain. One important tip before we move on, and this is quite an important one, guys, is my suggestion is, if you've got any youngsters or kids that may be coming in and out of your place where you're actually doing the work, is take the key out of the ignition, just so that there's less chance of them putting the ignition on, pressing that start button while the bike may be in gear and your hands are anywhere near the chain and sprocket. Also, when it comes to lubricating the chain, don't be tempted to put it in gear and have the wheel spin while you spray the chain. Okay, it is a big no-no. If you get a rag caught in there, or you get pulled into the chain or the sprocket, you are going to lose some fingers, okay, and it is going to ruin your day. So top tip, don't do it. So if you've got any chain guards, which most bikes will have, it's easier to get them out of the way. Move them to one side. It's a good opportunity to be able to give them a good clean inside while we're at it. Okay, so we take the kerosene. Now, there's no science to this, guys. We need to get as much of this kettle into the rollers as we can. I usually start at the bottom and slowly turn the wheel. Give it a good spray. Now, you're not going to hurt the chain, so you don't need to be worried about spraying too much on there. The more the better, really, because it'll help flush out all them little bits of grit and sand that might be stuck in between the rollers, acting as a grinding paste. What you do need to be careful of, though, is getting it on your back wheel, which, if you do get it on your back wheel, it is nothing to worry about. You just need to make sure that you give that wheel a good clean before you take the bike out on the road, just for obvious reasons, because obviously you don't want that to let your back wheel lose traction. When you're spraying this stuff as well, spray away from your brake discs. You don't want any going on there. So, once you're giving it a good coating, what sometimes I do, depending on how bad the chain is, I might use this opportunity now, take my gloves off, go and have a cup of tea, let the degreaser do its thing, leave it 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes, to eat all the grease. But it's not that long ago I did the chain, so it's not that bad. So you get your brush, get in there, don't be afraid of it, you ain't going to hurt the chain. Slowly spin the wheel. Now remember, the chain has got 4 sides, so once you've gone over the top, so you want to do the sides and then the bottom. So this is where we give this new brush that I bought, I'll give it a whirl. Chain maintenance, you know, you don't need to be a mechanic to be able to do this. Now obviously if you're doing your chain every 200-300 miles, you don't want to be paying to take it to a garage all the time, which is going to cost you upwards probably of 20 quid, depending what kind of garage you take it to, whether it's a main dealer, etc. Once you've given it a good brush, you know, what I like to do then is give it another coat of Kero. You can't put too much of this on your chain, okay, because we're going to clean it off anyway. But like I said, the more you get on there, it just helps flush out the dirt from in between the plates. And if this is the first time you're attempting to do something like this, you know, it's a good opportunity to get to know your bike. And what I mean by that is you can inspect your chain while it's going round. You can look for damaged links. You want to pay particular attention to the teeth on the sprocket, see if there's any of them snapped off, see how they're wearing. I'm going to do another video on how to adjust your chain and how to inspect it. So like I said, we'll just concentrate on cleaning and lubricating for this video, and we'll do another video in the near future of how to inspect and adjust your chain. And it's a nice little project. It's one of the little jobs you can do on a Sunday. Job that's not going to cost you a lot of money once you've bought the kit. Once you've given it a good inspection of all the teeth on the sprocket, just give that a bit of a clean as well. Now remember, you want to keep your fingers well clear of the chain and sprocket, and never do this with your engine running, because regardless of what you think, even just with your engine running and even with the bike being out of gear, your back wheel can still spin just with the vibrations. So we'll leave that to soak, and I'm off to get a cup of tea. So once you've had your cup of tea, you come back to the chain, give it a good dry. This is where your kitchen roll, your paper towel in, or even just a rag, get in there. Don't be afraid of it. Like I said, you ain't going to break the chain. dry it off as best you can. What you might find is that you need to do this a few times, because as you rotate the wheel, remember to keep your hands clear, it will free up some more Kerrol. There we go, see, build up under here. Remember guys, it's important to keep your hands well clear of this sprocket when you're spinning the wheel. That's it. Once you're happy with it, get your chain lube, give it a good shake. Now if you're new to doing this, if this is your first time ever cleaning and lubricating your chain, these things do come with a little straw which you can fit into the front of the nozzle, which can be a bit easier for directing it in a specific place without getting it on your tyre. And it's like I said, there's no science to it. All we're going to do is we're going to rotate the wheel slowly and spray the bottom of the chain. What you want to keep an eye on is for, as it's going round, you want to keep an eye out for the way you started, which is easier said than done. Okay, so once you've done the bottom run, this is where a bit of controversy comes into it. It is said, some people will say to you that you only need to lubricate the bottom run of the chain, because as it is going round, centrifugal forces will throw the lubricant through the rollers or through down the sides of your plate and lubricate it that way. Some people say you need to do all three sides. Personally, I like to do all three sides. So once I've done the bottom, I'll do the top. But I tend to do this round the side of the sprocket. Now you are spraying grease. It's important that you keep this off your brake discs. If you do get it on your tyre or your brake discs, you can clean it. If you've got some, do happen to have some brake cleaner, that stuff is ideal. You can use soap and water, warm soap and water. That will suffice to get it off there. But if you do get it on there, or if you're not confident what you're doing, I recommend that you cover the discs up with a carrier bag or some sort of cardboard. Just create some sort of shield. And that's basically it. If you've got too much grease, then you can just go along and dab the excess off. Once you think you're finished, spin the wheel slowly and just have a look at all the links and just make sure that you've got grease on all of them. So to summarise then, this should be done at the very least every 400 miles. If you drive, or ride I should say, in inclement weather, depending on how much rain or wet weather you've ridden through, you want to reduce that 400 miles to maybe every 100. You can also just keep an eye on your chain. Obviously if you see it getting a bit dry, getting a bit red with rust, then obviously you know it needs doing. So another top tip, when you finish your chain, get a bit of old rag, bit of Kerrol, carefully and slowly run it along your rim. It'll help just take off not just the grease that you've sprayed on your chain, but all the old stuff that builds up on your back wheel. Another dry piece. So if there's something that you're going to be tackling yourself from now on, rather than pay someone else to do it, it's probably worth investing in a paddock stand. I mean, you can pick them up really cheap second hand. I think I only paid about £45 for this one, new. I've had it a few years. If space is a bit of an issue, that you've got nowhere to store a paddock stand, there are some things on the market. It's a bit of a, it's like a roller that you sit your rear wheel into, and you can spin the rear wheel while it's in situ. Never used one myself, but there are other options like that on the market. Just a couple of tips: when you've finished, you want to pay sort of attention where you're going to be doing this work. You're using kerosene, which itself is an oil. So if you're doing this on a posh driveway or a brick driveway, if you do get any kerosene on there on the driveway, it is going to stain, okay? No matter how much newspaper I put down, I always seem to get kerosene on the floor in the garage. It's just part and parcel of doing the job. So that's something you need to bear in mind. Maybe do it outside or off your driveway, you know, if you've got something that's going to stain easy. So another tip: when you think you've finished, you're going to have Kero drip out of somewhere on the bike. So once you've had your tidy up and you've kept everything, I would put some newspaper underneath the chain, okay? Because inevitably you will get a couple of drips overnight, and it'll just help keep the place a bit tidier. So that's Joey Jix's top tip. And there we go, all done, nice and simple. Hopefully you found that video useful and informative. Hopefully it's given you a bit more confidence to be able to do the job yourself and save a few quid in doing so. If you got any comments, please leave them below. Please come back and visit me again in the man cave. Until then, ride safe and take care.